Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lili Nishmasi Mimiros Yerusmas Mordechai. Hayoim a guten Chodesh. Don't forget to eat a small little Suda, not a big one, and certainly not before Shabbos. But in the morning, eat something special to cover Rosh Chodesh. Hayoim Chamisha V'Arbaim Yoim Shem Shisha Shavuos U'Shleisha Yomim Bo'Imer Lo Imer.
What time should we come to you for the Suda?
I'm coming too.
Mitchell Letterman. My family and I are planning a trip. I'm reading this because I received a number of these emails this month. We're coming to Israel this summer. I'm hoping to visit Merker's Daf Yomi. Do I need to schedule an appointment or do I just walk in? Is there anything I need to know? Thank you so much. First of all, you don't need an appointment. There's unfortunately a lot of empty seats lately. Second of all, I'm not going to be here.
To be even more empty seats.
There'll be even more empty seats. Absolutely, no, just show up. What's the Olam is very machnasoyach, but during the summer, I usually go away. I plan on being maybe for a few days in Chicago, a few days in even Los Angeles, and wherever else we end up. Dear Rebelli, from Moshe Oshri. First of all, I have some great feedback on the Bava Metzia video you did. I personally think it's amazing and there's a lot of potential going in that direction. Second of all, you shouldn't be let down by your fellow Americans and Israelis who are not laughing at your jokes, because around the world there are thousands of people that are rolling their heads off. On a serious note, I'm literally crying when I hear you talking about nachas from your kids. I'm always begging Hashem that He should give you tremendous nachas from your kids, because you're the one that makes Hashem have nachas from His kids. I wish you all the best. Lots of hatzlach and lots of nachas. Your Talmud that is hooked and addicted to your shir since Ksubas Daf Kuf Yud, anonymous from Borough Park. Moishi O, the one that started with you after the Moment magazine interview. I did this interview with the Hasidic magazine called Moment. And at least one person joined them. It was Kedai just for that. That's why I do it. Jeff Rosner. During yesterday's daf, tzadik ches, you mentioned that you will not have many opportunities to recruit. Talking about during Bava Metzia. There's not a lot of, it's a very long Masechta. I think you have one such opportunity for you. Last year, Bike for Chai wanted to have you do a live share, but they asked too late. Yesterday, I was sitting with the executive director for Bike for Chai, Rav Sruli Fried. And again mentioned that they would love to have you come and give a live shir and also come to Camp Simcha. There are over 1,500 Yidden at Bike for Chai, between bikers, family members, and staff, and it would be a great opportunity to recruit more people. Please let me know if you can make this happen. I'm happy to help facilitate it. As you may know, Chai Lifeline helped us so much during Yossi's illness and beyond, and I have been an active participant ever since with the team from Philadelphia named for Yossi. Thanks, Jeff Rosner. As I mentioned, I believe I was from the very, very first Bike for Chai participants. There weren't very many. Certainly not 1,500 people. It was in Lake Tahoe. Me, myself, and Louis Colum, we rode that one. I think it was the very, very first one. What I'm saying is, it's a great opportunity to speak to 1,500 people. The thing is that it's hard to recruit somebody in Daf Tes Zayin of Bava Metzia, in Daf Mem Ches of Bava Metzia. We have an opportunity. We have 20 days from now. We're starting Bava Metzia Beis Hashem 20 days. So it's an opportunity. Think about it. Try to recruit people. Change people's lives. Good morning, Rebelli. First and foremost, thank you for your amazing share. The clarity is outstanding. As a visual learner, I appreciate the pictures, charts, and videos so much. Just something I noticed, you missed the last two words in Daf Tzadik Ches Amud Beis. There are two pshatim in Rashi about these two words. He might be talking about another daf. I went over there. First of all, there's only one pshat in Rashi, and I on YouTube it's there. It's there, those two words. So he might be talking about another daf. I went back to Daf Tzadik Ches, Tzadik Zayin. That's a sugi that we did even twice. So I don't know. Maybe a different Masechta. Thanks again, and have a wonderful Yontiv from Tainus. Oh, maybe he was watching a different Maggid chair. It's very hard to miss two words in this room right over here when I have Rav Nachman sitting next to me. Shaul Jaspin. But just in case. Oh, and finally we have Yidy Schwartz. It's been a while since I wrote to you the routine of starting off the day with Torah. Yidy Schwartz is from Borough Park. The routine of starting off the day with Torah learning has been truly amazing. Thanks for your efforts expanding to reach Daf Yomi, anyone and everywhere. no matter where you are. Since there are multiple ways to watch a shir, there are no excuses to skip a day. My wife truly appreciates that I have a shir to go to, and there's always time to learn, whether at home or on the road. Today's my wife's mother's yahzeit, so Bracha Dvora Xayim Rafal Arya, and my little daughter is named after. We're sponsoring today's shir in her honor. Although I never met her, she's about chesed, ran a bika cholim flatbush. Chesed, for most of her life, and always gave her leiv and nefesh. It's for my father. May today's learning be an Eliezer for neshama. I'm watching the shir live today on Zoom in her honor. So everybody wave to Rabbi Yidy Schwartz, big part of the shir. Yeshua for everything. Good Shabbos and good Chodesh. The Masechta sponsored by Anonymous for safe and speedy return for all the hostages. Paras Chodesh. Are you able to? You know where he is, Gary? Oh. Paras HaChodesh Linish was Zechai b'Moishe Linish was Chai bas Yosef. Paras HaChodesh the Refuah Shelaima Neftali Hertz ben Henya Leah, a hidden tzadik in our generation. Paras HaYom Peter Merker, memory of Leonard Merker, Eliezer ben Yehashua HaLevi on his 55th yahrzeit. Paras HaYom, I love this one. Parents Chaim Levine. That's the Shabbaton place. But is he there? That's the Armon. Is that his background? he's saving his seat. He's saving his seat. Nobody have that seat right over there. Is Kesher Nafshi this week? It's right now. You're live in Armon. Wow. If you hear me, give me 2 thumbs up. He hears? Okay, Givaldi. Lisa Bond. Listen to this one. Love it. Dear Glenn, happy 35th wedding anniversary. Keep doing the daf. I'm so proud of you. It's a different magazine. Paras Hayim by Yidy Schwartz. Zechar my mother-in-law. So Bracha Dvora Xayim Rafal Arya Niftaru Chodesh Sivan Tavshin Samach Gimel. The shir is also dedicated for complete Refuah Shelaima for the Kosovo Rebbe. Rav Shrage Feivish Ben Malka. Raboisai, here we go. Welcome. Brand new Masechta today. Masechtas Bava Metzia Daf Kuf. We're starting by a brand new Mishnah, brand new Sugya. Up until now, we're talking about Shoyal, not a guest, he's been here. Who else? Do we have guests here today? Oh. You're kind of, the Dak is in the house, shtickle guest. You know who I haven't seen in a very long time? Mutti. Anybody see Mutti?
Soldiers.
No, he's in the U.S. now.
He's in the U.S. That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. We need him here. Well, U.S. Well, what are the soldiers going to do without him? You got him. Okay. He needs somebody to hold him accountable. Are his tefillin here? That's my question, because I don't even see him for Shachris. So, first of all, a little bit of a riddle. Yesterday, Yosef Biliak's son got it. Let's see how many people here get it. There are two women who give birth to 2 boys. Each one gives birth to a boy. The same exact second, in the same exact address. Same exact second of the day, same exact address. One is going to have a bris on Sunday. The other one's bris is on Monday. But it's the same second. Same second. You were born the same second. No. Anybody? Anybody could beat that 14-year-old? Yosef Biliak's son? Huh?
Same house.
Same address. Same second.
Different time zone.
Oh, Mendy has it. Mendy's getting it.
Higher or lower?
Oh, one is on the 50th floor and one is on the 2nd floor. So Shkia is at a different time. Okay, here's a Shiloh. Does anybody remember? Guys, here's another one. I'll show you. Wait. Huh? Who says this? That's right. What's shaykh is your question? But that's your last question for today. Your last aura. Okay. Rav Shimon Zalman Auerbach says not like you. No, that's something else. You're down below and you don't see the nets. But when you're above and the sun is shining in your face. Right. Okay. Yeah, but you're in the. I'm saying you're in the same spot. Okay, Rabbi said this had nothing to do with the daf. It was just a riddle. Okay, let's go. Right. Right. That's what Jonathan is saying. Fine. Rabbi said this is more important to the daf. Does anybody here? And if you say sheker, I'm going to call you out. It reminds me of like when I learned by Michael Yudah Lefkovich. So he would ask me, he would pick on me probably the most of anybody. I was the youngest in the shir, and he'd go, "Nu Eli Stefansky." What's pshat and taisvis? And I never knew. So the next day, I would like prepare all the taisvis. I knew it inside out. He wouldn't ask me. Any day that I knew, he wouldn't ask me because he saw my face. I was like waiting for him to ask. No, it's when I was like this. Then he knew it. Like he chapped. What does Heilach mean? Heilach. Does anybody know what Heilach means? I'm sorry, I scared you guys. Okay, so we're going to learn about Heilach. Does anybody remember? We had it on the maybe the Daf Dalet in this Masech. The what? No. Now I'm going to something else. Heilach. Zoikikin. Does anybody remember what Zoikikin means? Zoikikin. A musik in Shas. Zoikikin. Not people that learned here in the Koil yesterday. Fine. And finally, this one a lot of you know, Cheskas Morakama. Zog Deiligi Mishnah. Sponsored by someone in recognition of all the Chevra of MDY and myself.
I think we do need a new sponsor though.
Why? It's fake, that one?
I think it's finished. But it's a good one, so...
It's a waste of time.
Next one's going to be someone else.
It makes me feel uncomfortable in recognition of myself. I'd rather not say it. Says Deiligi. Okay, we're stopping to say it. That's your thing. Hamachlef para b'chamar v'yolda. If somebody trades a cow for a donkey, and the cow gave birth, and we don't know exactly when the cow gave birth. So it's a very, very common saying. I love to use it. Many people use it. Let's say if a person trades in like a beat up Hyundai for a kaya, they say, you bought yourself, you machlef a para b'chamar. Or even better yet, let's say you go to your friend's wedding, it's a second marriage, you spit them, I think you machlef a para b'chamar. You know, one of those. I've done it a couple of times, it works out very well. So, it's a saying, everybody says it. Machlef para b'chamar. Because Reb Ari Chaimson, that was his name. What was his last name? Chaimowitz. Reb Ari Chaimowitz. He was here, and we were busy with him. Not Musser, but being mechazik him until he said, "Okay, that's it. I give up. Stop. I'm doing the daf." So I was telling him that there's one thing that if you're machlif, it's not a par b'chamar. There's one thing if you take the American hours or the hours that people work, 14, 15 hours a day, and you trade in that hour for Torah, I promise you, you're never going to have charata. You'll see a bigger atzlach in parnasa, bigger atzlach in life, etc., etc. And I brought him a raya. I'm bringing him a raya now. One of the rayas is, because I spoke to one of the executives of B&H Photo, and I asked him, is it true that you guys made more money since you shut down your website on Shabbos? It's the number one electronics store in the world. Online, everybody buys their camera equipment from them. They have the best price, etc. So he said, not only do we make more money, but we probably tripled our profit since something like that. It's something with sugar. Huh? They shut down there's no website. You can say a website. What's a website? The guy pushes there. No, it says you go on there. You're the most successful electronics store in the world. Most of your clients are non-Jews. They come in, click, it says closed. Website down. Whatever it says. It's crazy. I once tried it. No, I have no idea what it says in Shabbos. But even in Eretz Yisrael, if you go on their website, I think it's closed on Shabbos over there. What? Could you? You could put stuff in your car, but you can't check it. Okay. Anyway, the Kitzer, you only, or Mendel Lubel. I should talk about Lubelsky, but that's a different story. I showed him the video of that guy from England who saw my interview on Meaningful People, and he stopped working he was working a lot of hours a day. Instead, he became a Magachir, became one of the most successful Magdishurim in Yiddish. Fine.
Last Shabbos, the B&H website was...
Huh?
Last Shabbos, it worked for me, the B&H website.
Yeah? That's what he says last Shabbos. It did work for him. Very nice. This is the type of guys. I tell people, I say, in our shir over here, we have Rosh Koilalim, we have people that are off the derech. We have everything in between. Says the Mishnah, V'chein amoiches shivchasoi lebiyolda. Oh, so wait a minute. Before I forget, we do have a video that depicts this. Rabbi say, here it goes. Machlif para b'chamar means you're doing kinyan chalipin. We didn't really speak about this kinyan, so we speak about meshicha agba. Over here, we're doing a kinyan called chalipin. Bartering. I give you this, you give me that. By me trading with you, we make a kinyan. But the chiddush over here is only one of the two people have to be koina of the object. I say I'm trading a donkey for a cow. As long as I'm koina the donkey, you're koina the cow. Now the cow could be in another country. It could be in another city. I don't know what's going on with the cow. Over here, just so we understand the sugya, they're right next to each other. So what happened? This guy pulls the donkey, so it becomes the guy on the right. The guy on the left is kind of the cow. Now they take a look, and all of a sudden they realize that the cow has a baby. When was the baby born? Right before Mashiach or right after Mashiach? Who owns the baby? There's a fight. Okay. I'm not, that's a Mashiach. We're talking about Chalipin here, but okay. Details. And the same will apply if I sell you a shifcha for money and she gives birth. Each one says, the seller says, no, she gave birth, the baby slave is mine. She gave birth after I purchased her. Yachloiku, we do a chalukah, down the middle, 50-50. If the seller has two slaves, one could lift 200 pounds, and the other one is a little stick, he could lift 10 pounds. The larger slave is a better slave. And of course, if you have two fields, one is an acre and one is 10 acres, of course, he says, I purchased, we spoke about the larger one. I don't know. The one who knows, he's a bari. Bari v'shema, bari adif, the one who's certain, he acquires the larger slave, the larger piece of property. What is the opposite? The seller says, I know exactly what I sold you. I know that I sold you the weaker slave, the smaller one. The buyer says, any idea? Since he doesn't know, he gets the smaller one. They're both certain. They're 100%. Each one knows for sure. This guy says, I sold you the small one. This guy says, I bought the big one. So now there's a shvuah. We don't do chalukah because they're both 100% sure. So since we don't do chalukah, what do? You do a shvuah. But who makes the shvuah? Over here, the seller makes the shvuah that he meant to sell the smaller one. And when they're both, they don't know, then we have yachloiku. Says the Gemara, ma yachloiku. In this case where the cow gave birth, and each one thinks that the calf is theirs. So what do? Yachloiku. We split it. Ask the Gemara, ma yachloiku. Let's see exactly where this calf gave birth. If it gave birth in the seller's barn, it's in his barn, so he gets to keep it. If it's already brought to the buyer's barn and it gave birth, and you find the baby there, so it's the buyer's. We always show oimedes ba'agam here, like this. It's in the swamp, so it's not in anybody's possession. Yoshi did a new one for today. Oimedes ba'agam. Here, chilling out, playing tennis. Okay. Says Gemara, Shivchanami, the Kaim Basimta, and also we're talking about you selling the slave, she was in a place that's not the owners, not the sellers, and not the buyers. As the Gemara, there's another thing. There's something called Cheskas Morakama. V'nukma Cheskas Morakama. Who's the last known owner? The seller. So give it to the seller. Says the Gemara, Mani Sumchosi. Yesterday it seemed like everybody knew the Sumchos, famous Sumchos. When you have an inherent suffix, nobody knows, Bezdin won't be able to help you out over here. What do? You split it, you divide it without a Shvuah. As the Gemara, Eimer Da'amar Sumchos B'Shema V'Shema. Where does everybody remember the case of Sumchos right over here? Aboisai, let me remind you for a second. This is the case. Somebody owns a cow and somebody owns a bull. Shor Shenoga Chasapara, the famous Shor V'Nimtza Ubra B'Tzida. The bull gored the cow, and then you find a dead calf on the side. When did the calf die? Before the goring or after the goring? Was it caused by the bull or by itself? This is something that's impossible to determine. Bezin will never determine. The owner of the bull can't determine. Neither could the owner of the cow determine. It's a real suffix. A suffix that if you don't have video evidence, there's nothing to do. So what do you do in such a situation? It says Sumchos. Maman amutu b'suffix cholkin. But where did Sumchos ever talk about Bari v'Bari when two people know what they're talking about? Maybe in that case, there should be a Shvuah. V'Bari v'Bari mi'amar. Yes, in fact, he said the case even in Bari v'Bari. Amar Sumchos afilu b'Bari v'Bari. Even in such a case, Bari v'Bari, there is yachloiku when both people know for certain what happened. In fact, it's not true, like you thought. So Rava argues. Sumchos only said his halacha of yachloiku, we divide it when there's a suffix, only when both don't know what they're talking about. Both admit they don't know. I don't know what happened. We weren't there. It happened in the forest somewhere. We don't know. When each one comes and says, no, I know for a fact that the slave gave birth when it was in my possession. He says, no, she gave birth before I sold it to you. So then why in the world does our Mishnah say Yachloiku? It says Rava, therefore I'm forced, there's a few forces here in this Mishnah. I'm forced to explain the Mishnah. You really have to explain the Mishnah in a case of uncertainty. When the person says, I don't know, it's not that I'm certain I'm certain I know that she gave birth after I bought it. No, he's saying maybe she gave birth after I bought it. We must say maybe, otherwise it wouldn't be the achloiku of Sumchos, because Sumchos only says his idea when it's a shema, when it's uncertain, not when it's certain. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah. If each person, yeah. When they both don't know, at the end of the Mishnah, they both don't know. They admit they don't know. They're honest people. They come to Bezdin and say, Bezdin, help us out. We don't know. When we don't know, what should we do? We don't want to steal from each other. We don't know what happened. We don't know the circumstance. So the Mishnah tells us, Yachloiku. According to Rava, I could explain away the Mishnah. So we have two cases that are talking about the same exact thing. They both don't know. The Reish is safe. You're going to ask me, why do I need two cases? Okay. A little bit of a kasha. But it's not a bomb kasha. But according to Rabbi Bar Avuna, we have a very serious question. If the Mishnah starts off talking about a case where they both know, they both come to Bezdin and they say, I know for sure that the slave is mine. And the other person says, I know for sure the slave is mine. And in that case, we say Yachloiku, according to Rabbi Avuna, even in that case, we say Yachloiku. So certainly in the case where they say we don't know. If they both know, we do Yachloiku. Look, Rabbi argues, he says we don't say Yachloiku in such a case. But you, Rabbi Avuna, argue and say that Tzumcha said his halacha even in a case where you both know. So certainly in a case that you don't know. So why would you start off a Mishnah saying the big Chiddush and then end off in a very weak Chiddush? Start off the Mishnah when it's bari v'bari, when both know, and even in the case where they say, they know their claim, they know exactly what to say. No, the halacha is you divide it down the middle, and then the Mishnah ends off. And by the way, even in a case where they both don't know, of course where they both don't know, you divide it down the middle. What's the chiddush? It doesn't make sense according to Rabbi Ravuna that we start off with a big chiddush and end off with a small chiddush. According to Rava, there's no chiddush in either case. They're both the same. El Rabbi Ravuna Omar in Omar Sumchas Afilu Bari V'Bari Hashta Bari V'Bari Omar Yachloiku, in a case where they both know for certain. The halacha is Yachloiku Shem Shem Baya. So certainly in a case where they both don't know. Says Gemara, a very very simple answer, that the Seifa comes to explain the Reisha. How do I know? How do I know that the Reisha is talking about Bari V'Bari? It doesn't say what happened. Each one says, the slave is mine, the field is mine, the shifcha is mine. But I don't know, it doesn't say in the Mishnah that they know for certain. But from the Seifa, that the Seifa is talking about that it's not certain, must be that the Reisha is certain. Otherwise, why would the Mishnah repeat itself? So that's why it says in the Seifa, a case of Shema v'Shema. Even Shumha le'irya. That's not such a great question. Tana Seifa le'galu'i Reisha. I told you a second case in the... So of course, no one must think to himself, just say the words, Bari v'Bari, then I don't need a whole other case. Okay. Don't tell me that the first case in the Mishnah is talking about a Shema Shema, but if they both are certain there's no Yachlaiku, that's why there's a lot of words here, but the idea is very simple. That's why I tell you a second case, a case of when I don't know, and the halacha is that you do Yachlaiku, to teach us that the first case is actually talking about a different case, because the Mishnah is not going to repeat itself two cases. And what's the halacha about? Great. What? Leave it as that. Let the ratio be Shem Hashem and the Sefer Bari Bari. Neither of them doesn't say in the Sefer either Shem Hashem. But once I know Shem Hashem, I say it's talking about Shem Hashem, then the ratio also. Huh? Yeah, it does say before Shem Hashem. You're right. It does say before. Yeah. So he's just asking, why don't you flip it? Okay, fine. Tanat. Zo'imer Godol v'zo'imer Katan. You just have to understand that there's a certain style in Shema Yisrael. I'll answer all your questions.
I wanted the line.
Huh?
I wanted the line.
Oh, starts off the new Masechta. Machlef par b'chamor. It's geschmack. Tanat zo'imer Godol v'zo'imer Katan. Yishov ha'moiche shekatan mochar. Two cases. Case of a slave, I say I bought the larger slave. You say no, you sold me the smaller slave. I say I bought the larger property. You say you sold me the smaller property. There was two people that came to Reb Chaim Volozhiner fighting over a property. Each one had tremendous tinus and proofs that it's theirs. Each one, it's mine. You sold it. I didn't sell it. So Reb Chaim Volozhiner told them, listen, based on what you're telling me, I can't give a psak over here. It's like you both have very very strong tinus. You know what? Let's go see the property. Let me hear what the property has to say. Okay. So they go to the property. Chaim Volozhiner gets down on his knees, puts his ear on the ground. Okay. He gets up. He says, "Listen, the property says like this. It's not yours, and it's not yours. Both of you belong to me. You'll be here very soon." So they were shocked. It's like, oh, and Mamish. It says, I didn't see this inside, but 9 minutes later, they did tshuva. And they made up sharp. They realized life is very short. There's no reason to fight and make a mishigas. Let's go. Both of you are going to be mine soon. We have a dispute here. Who owns the larger slave? So the Mishnah says the seller makes a shvuah that he sold a smaller slave and he gets to keep the larger slave. Why don't we invoke sumchas over here? Why don't we say yachloiku? They both know what they're talking about. They both said we're certain. I say the larger slave is mine. You say the larger slave is yours. Yachloiku. According to Rava, yachloiku doesn't work here. Why? Sumchas only goes when they're uncertain. When a person knows what he's talking about, there's no yachloiku. So according to Rava, it makes a lot of sense. That's why, since there's no sumchas, you got to do shvuah. El Rab, in Amar Sumchas Afilu Bari V'Bari, that Sumchas halacha applies even when they both know Amay Shav and Moicher Yachloikum B'Bay. They should do a chalukah divided down the middle. By the Sumchas says in the Gemara, no. In this case, we don't have Sumchas. Why? That's why this is Shvuah. Heicha Dik is Shvuah Doiraisa. When there's a moed b'miktas, like in our case, where he admits that he owes the small field. You're saying you want a large field. I say no. You only bought a small field. So you're moed. The seller is admitting that he sold him 1 acre, not 20 acres. That's a moed b'miktas. So he should have to swear a shvuah of moed b'miktas. The Gemara is going to discuss it. Say it's not what? That the Gemara is going to talk. That's what we're going to discuss. Like we're going to want to say soon. Okay. Now, ask the Gemara 3 questions. We're fighting over a slave. I want the larger one. You want the larger one. What should we do? Yishava. Ask the Gemara, Amay Yishava. So let's see it inside real quickly, because we are going to go back to these 3 questions. They become very simple. This is a little bit of the sugya here. Question number 1 is what Noam was just discussing. I'm saying I want the large slave, this 300-pound 7-footer, and you're saying no, you deserve this 4-footer 70-pounder. It's 2 different things. I'm not moida on part of the slave. I'm not saying I owe you his leg. If we're fighting over money, I say you owe me $100, and you say no, I only owe you 50. So 50 is part of 100. I say you owe me 3 bushels of wheat, and you say no, only 1. So now you're moida part of what I claim. But over here we're talking about I'm saying you owe me this large slave, and you're saying no, I only owe you a small slave. They're not the same thing. That's not moed b'miktas. Another problem is the concept called heilach. Heilach, let's remember this concept. Heilach means, here you go, here it is. So when you come to me and you say, you owe me 100, and I say, okay, here's 50, that's heilach. But it doesn't really, it works on something that's here, it's present. When I say, you owe me a large slave, and I say, no, I owe you a small slave, my slave is here. Where is he? He's in this world. Anything that's in the world, it could be down the block, it could be in another country, but it's heilach. Heilach means, it's here, take it. I owe you the small slave, boom. It's not moed b'miktas. There's no discussion. Here, take it. I say you owe me 20 acres, and you say no, it's only 1 acre. It's here. Take the property. You know where it is. It's not. You know where it is. Go down the block and take your property. Heilach. So in the case of heilach, when I say take it, when it's cash, there's no heilach in cash. Where is it? You could show me where the cash is. No, it's not a certain thing. It's a concept. I owe you money. It's just numbers, especially today. Everything is numbers. Everything's computerized. You take money from here and you transfer it to here. Did something transfer? No, it's just here. It's a digital. It's not something that you could grab. So on that you say, I told you you owe me 100, and you said 50. Make a shvuah. But if we're fighting over 2 different slaves, one is not the other. So it's heilach. Take it. Forget about the 2 different. Here, it's in this world. Take it. That's problem number 1. 2. Problem number 3 is. He's a slave. There's no shvuah on a slave. Just like if we have a fight over real estate, and you admit that you bought that I sold you a smaller building, and I said, no, you sold me a larger building, there's no moed b'miktas. There's no shvuah on karka. Just like there's no shvuah on karka, there's no shvuah on slaves. Avodim hukshel karkais. We have 3 major questions here. So for that we have different answers. Says the Gemara, problem number 1 is that what he admits is not on the claim. So if it's not on the claim, it's not considered that you're admitting a partial admission. Everything that's in this world, just go ahead and take it. There's no moed b'miktas. There's no shvuah on a slave. If the whole argument is on a slave, what's the question? Rav, and this is very interesting. Rav looked at this Mishnah and he has major issues. How do I explain the Mishnah? He's so desperate that he throws out a pshat that not a lot of people are going to like. We're talking about the value of a slave. We're not talking about a slave. What happened? Story. I know that you're about to purchase a slave in the slave market. So I say, listen, you're going there anyways. Do me a favor. I'm looking for a nice, good slave. Here's $1,000. Get me a good slave. He comes back and says, I got there, it was too late. The market is closed. Okay, so give me back my money. So he gives him back $500. 500? I gave you 1,000. So no, you only gave me 500. So they have an argument about money, of how much the slave was worth, not the actual slave. It was about money. The me'evet gadol, the me'evet katan, the me'sadik doilo, the me'sadik tana. So does this answer all three questions? Yes. Because they're arguing about money here, this money. So it's mashata and haida. We're talking about money. You owe me money, and I say, no, I only owe you half that amount. But it's, the argument is the same. It's not this slave versus a smaller slave. It's about money. Halach. Is there halach? No, there's no halach. Why? Because it's money. There's no halach on money. Second of all, you asked me, how do you make a shvuah on a slave? It's not a slave. I'm making shvuah on cash. We're talking about a cash problem. Shmuel Amar, a completely different answer. B'toyin uksus evet gadol, uksus evet katan. Amrei sadik doilo, Amrei sadik tana. I'm talking about the wheat on the field. I'm talking about the clothing on the eved. So the clothing on the eved is, you ask me, what about, you can't swear on the eved? I'm not swearing on the eved, I'm swearing on the clothing. You told me, we're just fighting about how much clothing, large size, small size. Okay, but that's the Einishbaum. But what about the other two problems? We didn't get rid of the other two problems. Why? Because we still have a problem. I said it's a size 50. The suit was a size 50. And you said, no, I only owe you a size 30. So my taina is on this, and you're answering on that. That's not a Motzei Shabbos. That I didn't answer. Also, you asked me, it's halach. It's halach. Here's the suit, take it. So I didn't answer those two questions. Daf Kuf, Amud Beis. Says the sponsor is turning the daf by Eric Edelman of Bigger Cup Consulting. And the second sponsor is Kidnovations LLC. Is chus for quick and full Refuah Shelaima for Hatzalah member's wife who's in critical condition after giving birth. Do we have any information about her? Lana Devorah Basadas Leah, please stop and down for her. And as a chus for Kiva Simcha Ben Fega. The Kuf Amud Beis on the top. Sus, you tell me we're talking about a garment. So question number one remains on the chart. What do I do with question number? Says the Gemara, like in a few minutes, Rav Papa is going to answer. We're talking about B'di Alfi. So there's a machlokes between the English art scroll and the Hebrew art scroll. And the Mesifta says like the English art scroll, so I'm going with the English art scroll. The Hebrew art scroll says we're talking about a big piece of fabric material. The English art scroll says something that makes a much better picture, so we're definitely going to go with him. I used to have these pair of pants. I only used them once. It was like for the safari, basically. It's basically a pair of pants that has a zipper and it turns into shorts. Okay? There's a larger piece of fabric. If you want to see what Yoshi did, here goes. Here's a guy. He's wearing a longer suit, the purple part, and if you want, it detaches and it becomes his size. Now you're talking about in the time of the Gemara where to make fabric took many, many days, if not weeks. You had to make the thread by hand. Everything was by hand. And then once you have the thread, you have to do shasi ve'erev, back and forth. Thousands of times, it takes weeks. So there's a huge argument about this piece of fabric. So, you're asking me, mashatoan loy, loy hoydaloy, it's a size 50 suit, and I'm talking about a size 30 suit. No. This is Schwab's suit, the boss suit from Germany. This is the suit that, remember the Maisa? I'm not going to repeat it now. Bought him a size 54, and he had it tailored down, so the pocket was shtickle on the bottom. Now, doesn't matter. But Maisa said boss inside. So, it's the same suit. It's not Mashata and Lehoida, it's on the Taina. I say I get the suit with all the extra fabric, and you say no, I only sold you half a suit. You have to give me back the extra fabric. Says Gemara, where does it say anything about a garment here? The Mishnah talks about an Eved. This is what the Gemara is actually, even though we try to slug him up, this is what the Gemara is going to stay with. There is a double taina here. I purchased a slave that was wearing clothing. Normally, when you purchase a slave, he's wearing something, I hope. And it comes with the slave. When I buy him, I bought a slave with a suit. Okay? She has shoes, the whole thing. And you're saying no. Yeah, I gave you, but it didn't come with a suit. It came with a shirt, not a suit. Shogos. Why would I sell you a suit also? Ask the Gemara. We still have the first problem. You didn't get rid of the problem. We're talking about two different garments. You're saying it was a suit, and you're saying no, it's just a shirt. So what I admit that it's a shirt has nothing to do with the suit. So that's not considered by the Mitzvah. Why should I make a Shavuot? Now hold on. If we take a step back, what does the Reb Shai say? Let me just explain a little better. I say I purchased a slave with a suit, and you say no, you purchased for me a slave with a shirt. So because I'm moide b'miktzas, I admit that I gave him some sort of fabric, some sort of clothing. So now I have to make a shvuah of moide b'miktzas on the shirt. So I'm also going to make you swear on the slave that I sold you a small slave, not a large slave. What is that called? Wrong, but right. You're right. It's the better terminology would be zoikikin. Why? It's not the same thing. What does zoikikin mean? Zoikikin is gilgal shvu on steroids. Typically, gilgal means I admit on this, but we didn't even discuss this. You know what? Let's make a shvu on this also. Over here, you don't make a shvu ever on karka. You don't make a shvu on a eved. Never. He's not in the parsha of shvu at all. He's gone. But since I'm going to make a shvu on the suit, whether or not I sold you a suit or shirt, now I'm going to force you to make a shvu on something you never make a shvu on, called the eved. That's called zoikikim. It's the same concept as gilgal, but it's called zoikikim. The Gemara uses it, not me. What's going on here? It's not a good moed mix. That's why I say I sold you a shirt. You say no, you sold me a suit. And you don't have to make a shvu in such a situation. I admitted to something completely different. I say you owe me 5 bushels of wheat, and you say no, I owe you 5 bushels of barley. You don't make a shvu on that. Is talking about this guy that he had a very large suit and he had to cut it down to size. And the question is, does he get the extra fabric? So it is the same, Taina. So what came out? At the end of the day, was the big chiddush. The chiddush is that if I'm going to force you to make a shvu on the suit, I'll make you a shvu. I'll force you to make a shvu on the slave. But that's an old chiddush that we already learned in Kiddushin if you were with us then. Tanina zoikikim anachasim she'ein lemachrayis. What does ein lemachrayis mean? Metaltalin. Es anachasim she'esh lemachrayis, real estate. If I could force you to make a shvu on metaltalin, then I could add another shvuah of the real estate, which typically you don't make a shvuah on l'shavalin. So that's the old chiddush. I don't need to say that chiddush twice. Elamar Rav Sheshes Amani Remeir Rabbi side. This goes according to Remeir. Major chiddush. The Amar Avdokim metaltalin dami. The reason why we're making a shvuah here. Let's go back to the 3 questions. Question number 3, I don't make a shvu on a slave. Answer is, you do make a shvu on a slave. Why? Says Remeir. Ask the Gemara, very good. You got rid of question number 3. What do I do about question number 1? Typically, you would say, if I claim wheat, then you claim barley, you're potter. So that's not a problem. Question number 1 goes away because you would be chayiv even though you admitted on something completely different. What do I do? Question number 2. Here, take it. I don't have to make a shvu on something that's right here. What am I giving back? A slave. There's a way that there's no halach on property. There's no halach on a slave. What's the way? Think about it. Here's my slave taken. No, it's not halach. You know why? Because now he's missing a limb. Here's my property. Take it. No, I can't take it because I purchased a property and now you're giving me a property that has a hole in it. A major ditch. It's not the same thing. There's no halach in such a case. Here we go. Right over here. We have a slave that he chopped off his arm. So it's not the same slave. I can't give it back. Or it has a bar, siyach u'ma'ara. Shiach u'ma'ara. Is there time for this Maisa? Real quickly, because I didn't say much on this. This king went on. I'll say it quickly. King went on a hunting trip with his big advisor, and during the hunting trip, the sword chopped off his finger. This guy, the king, is screaming in pain. So the advisor comes by and says, "Listen, king, you should know everything you do is for the best. Everything you do is for the best." King did not like that. He's suffering without a finger. He says, "Jail for the rest of your life." Puts him in jail. 2 years later, the king goes on a hunting trip, and all of a sudden, from behind the woods, the cannibals come and they grab the king. And they're about to kill him and eat him, and they see he's missing a finger. He says, he's balmum. We only shecht tamim. We don't do balmum. Go, leave. So the king runs back to the jail and he pulls out his advisor and says, "Listen, I see that you're right. I call it toiva. You're mamish. You're right. But I have one question. How are you going to explain yourself sitting in jail for 2 years? That's not l'toiva." So the advisor said, "Of course it is. If I wasn't thrown in the jail, I would be with you, and the cannibals would eat me." And what does that have to do with the daf? 0. Says the Gemara. No, it just says Av the Katal Yade. There's a good musar here. Everything is everything is l'toiva. Says the Gemara. So what are you telling me? You're telling me that a slave is like metaltalin. There's a shvuah on a slave here. Reb Meir says Evan is like metaltalin. If I could show you a Mishnah that says, look at this, he's going to say that a slave is like karka, not like metaltalin. So we have a contradiction. You're telling me a slave is like metaltalin, therefore what? There's a shvuah on a slave, and that answers question number 3. Reb Meir in fact says that a slave is like real estate. Where do we say it? It's not. You don't need to see this, right? Here, real quickly. A slave that became old. It's a Motzei Shabbos for us also. Yeah? Eventually with the stick. Or, I don't get it, old. It's nicht schlecht. So you stole it when it was worth a lot. And you're trying to give it back now. You're doing tshuva 25 years later. Shkoyach, give back a 90-year-old slave. What good is it? You pay like in the beginning, like metaltalin. We treat it like metaltalin. I steal something like a cow. You can't give it back when it's old. It's worthless. When it comes to slave, it's like real estate. Oh? So in other words, Meir is saying that a slave is like real estate. How are you telling me that Meir says that a slave is like metaltalin? Holy Kashio. In fact, look, if we take these two shitas, we have to flip them around. Meir is the one that says, this is what we thought. The Meir said it's like karka. So we're going to have to flip it like that. Meir is the one that says that when you steal a slave, it's like metaltal, you have to pay like the first day you stole it. If so now let's take this case. His skin is like metaltalin, and just we put it next to the other case. In both cases, we said Meir is going to say a slave is like metaltalin. Everything lines up. Okay, so now we have another problem because Rav Sheshes just said that a slave, according to Meir, is like metaltalin. So how do we look at the next part of the Mishnah? In our Mishnah itself, it says that if there's an argument on karka, there's a shvuah. What? So it goes according to Meir also. The first part, the slave goes like Meir. So the second part is also Meir. So what? You do swear on karka according to Meir. Why? Whoever said that? Throughout Shas, there's no einish bar mal karkais. You want to tell me you make a shvuah on a slave because the slave is not 100% like karka? Okay, in certain situations I know a slave is not like karka. But why would I say the same thing by karka? You make a shvuah on a karka? The Sanya we learned in a Brayz. Yeah, it's like our Mishnah. You switch a para for a donkey, and you do kin chalipin v'yolda, and she gave birth. The same applies to a slave. The one person doesn't know. The other one person says I know for certain. The other person says I know. Zacha, the one that knows, gets the good part. They both admit they don't know. We both do know. That's like the Mishnah. You swear. The seller swears. Lefi, why? Oh, this is different. There's an explanation. Everybody that swears, they swear, but they don't take. They don't pay. They swear and they don't pay. Divrei Rebbe Meir. Think about this for a second. If Chachamim say, there's no shvuah on slaves and on karka, that means that Rebbe Meir says the opposite. Chachamim say there's no shvuah on a slave and karka, and Rebbe Meir is going to say what? There is a shvuah on avodim and karka. You just asked me, does Rebbe Meir really say you swear in karka? Yeah, here it says in Furish. No, we could say Mimai. Dilma Kashem can't relate. They were saying just like don't you admit that there's no nishbay karka? So admit to us also by a slave. Slave and karka is the same. Then I'll prove to you that that's the pshat. Not that you do swear, that you don't swear in karka. Everybody admits to that. It's not. Riddle. What's attached to the ground but is not ground? The answer is every fruit that's about to be detached from the tree according to Rebbe Meir. But if it's not about to be detached from the tree, it's a fresh fruit, it has 2 more months to go, then Rebbe Meir admit that it is karka and you don't swear. Oh, furish. It's not Rebbe Meir, there's something that's like karka but not karka. Don't admit. I gave you 10 vines to watch. And he says, no, Moedim Miktas only 5. Remember, the Moedim Miktas on a karka. There's no shvuah on karka. And I'll explain it to you. They're about to be harvested. It's as if they're already detached from the ground. The only reason Remeir says make a shvuah over here is because it's detached. Mashma that if it was attached, you'd be potter from a shvuah. Beautiful raya. Eloilam, says the Gemara Kedar Bishaya. That what? We're talking about a machlokes. They're arguing over a slave with its clothing. I bought a large slave with large clothing. You say, no, you sold me a small slave with small clothing. So what was the question? And what's the pshat? He's a Moedim Miktas. I owe you some clothing. And what's the pshat? Because you're making a shvu on the small clothing, you're a Moedim Miktas. So I'm going to be megalgal. What is it called? Not gilgal, but zoikikin. So that's a big chiddush. And you ask me, oh, that's not a big chiddush. We already learned in Kiddushin. Or the gash of zoikikin. No, it's resokta chamino. Ksusevet kevedami. I would think that the garment that a slave wears is exactly like the slave. Imri sadik is sadidami. And the wheat that grows on the field is like the field. Ememela. You don't make a shvuah. It's mamish like the slave. It's mamish like the field. Komash malon that you do make a shvuah. So bottom line is, according to Rabbi Shaya, the purchaser says they're arguing over a slave with clothing, right? And he admits to some of the clothing. And what kind of clothing are we talking about? Yalfi. You could detach it, and they're fighting over that. So because I'm going to make a shvuah over that part of the clothing, so I'm going to make a shvuah on the Eved himself, Sir Rishai, and that's the last pshat that we have, and the Gemara sticks with it. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day. Motzei Shabbos 9:45. I hope to work harder today, so I'm there on time on Motzei Shabbos.